Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the show. And it's been pretty much 48 hours since the January transfer window ended. And what I'm going to do in today's video is basically review Everton's business and basically give them a grade based on all the business they did. So let's not waste any more time and let's dive right in. We'll kick things off with the Rafa era. Obviously, we have had a bit of a transition in coaching staff. That's something we're not going to cover today. But let's have a look at what Rafa Benitez did in his tenure in January. It started with signing Mikkelenko, who is a 22-year-old left back that does have a bit of versatility and can play the other side. And can also play wing, I'm pretty sure. And he's from the Ukraine league. The fees are pretty inconsistent. As long as I get around the mark, to get a rough idea, it doesn't really matter. This business happened when the Lucas Digne fallout was going on. So it was sort of, foreshadowing that Lucas Digne didn't have, a lot of time left at the club. So this deal sort of made sense. Whether it was necessary, I'm not too sure. But in saying that, the fact that we bought him for a bit less than we sold Dinier for allowed us to have the funds or generate the funds to get the other player that's on this little slide here, Nathan Patterson, who is a 20-year-old right back from Rangers and has been really promising. Rangers valued him highly, so it took us a couple goes to get him, a couple bids, because they wanted a fair bit of coin for him. But if he can be a long-term fullback for us, in the post-Coleman era, then I cannot complain with that right-back signing. I'm interested to see how Lampard uses him. Obviously endorses, playing youth. So if his performance at training warrants a first-team spot, then Frank Lampard will give it to him, no hesitation. So I'm very excited to see what that turns out to be. As for Mikkelenko, he's going to be a downgrade on Dinier. I don't know what his development's going to look like. He has played a bit for the first team. He was in the FA Cup and there was an EPL fixture, both of which he didn't look too comfortable, a bit out of his depth, but that is sort of expected given it's quite a step up from the league he was playing in. So two signings that I guess you basically got two for the price of one. Well aware that Lucas Digne was going to be heading out the door in a few days. And then what was probably the weirdest thing that happened this whole January transfer window was the signing of Ghazi, who played at Villa. This happened after the Dinier deal, which we're going to come up on in a bit of time. But he's 26. He's going to be here for 6 months. How much game time he gets, it's going to be probably minimal. This one really made no sense with the amount of depth we have on both wings. What he offers to the team. He's a good penalty taker, or he takes a lot of penalties at least. And he's got a ripping long shot, but how consistent that is remains to be seen. But he's going to be behind in the pecking order. We've got Richarlison, Demarai Gray, Gordon, Louis Dobbin as well can play wing. Because it was a loan in the domestic league, that loan could have actually been put towards another position, a centre-back, another centre midfielder. I know Loftus-Cheek was in the rumour mill, Ross Barkley was in the rumour mill. So instead of just pointlessly using our loan up on this guy, we could have used it in a position that, we needed more players for, or needed a bit more insurance. But obviously we did some business right at the end of the window, which we're going to cover later, that addressed that problem. And then probably the biggest thing to happen this transfer window was Lucas Digne going to Aston Villa. You can see the fee there. Obviously he's in his prime, and he's probably one of the better left backs in the Premier League. He's been off it for some time. But at his peak form, you know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get a lot of, special service, good delivery into the box. And he can score an odd goal as well from a set piece. So, but this guy, he was one of our better players, and given the situation we were in, it was a really brain dead, departure on, Benitez. Well, I mean, Benitez, Mashiri were all responsible for this. Mashiri more so for doing it a week before Rafa left, and Rafa for basically exiling one of his best players that, especially in a time of struggle, you need as many good players as you can get on the park at once, and getting rid of Dinier didn't really help that cause whatsoever. So this is probably the worst thing that happened. I guess the only upside is that it did help fund the business for the left back and the right back combo that we talked about earlier. I mean, they happened first, but with regards to FFP, we were compensating for spending all that money by selling one of our better players, and he was worth a fair bit. So look, I understand he was well off it in the last 18 months, but in saying that, when you're in this bad a situation, you're on the brink of being in a relegation fight, relegation scrap, should I say, yeah, you need as many good players as you can get, and Lucas Digne, fits the bill in terms of, having the ability to break games apart with, let's say a pass that no other player can pick out and, make something out of nothing. That's what he did quite a few times in his tenure at Everton. And now we move forward to the Lampard era. I haven't really reacted on the channel to these two things that happened, but first and foremost, let's go with Van De Beek. Age 24, so he is entering his prime. He hasn't really gotten a lot of playing time, recently, because, Ranić and Ole basically deprived him of any form of playing time, and he's got a lot of ability. You saw how good he was at Ajax. I was watching a little highlights package of what he was able to do, and, just the technique with the ball, the skill moves, the IQ, the good passing, weight on the ball when passing the ball, was pretty amazing. It was amazing to watch. And hopefully we'll be able to see a lot of that at Goodison Park in the 6 months that he'll be here. You never know, it could eventuate into something bigger than that, because even though there's not a condition for us to possibly buy him, if he likes his stay here, then, he could see a long-term future with the club. But in terms of the short term, he's going to help us in the midfield. This was a great signing. Without Lampard, I don't think it would have happened. Lampard has pull. Lampard had a bit of desire and ambition to actually fit, help fill a team need, because obviously Doucouré out recently, Delph out recently, and obviously Davies out for an extended period of time, leaves only Gomez and Alan, and Gabaman as the three midfielders we had. So Donny Van De Beek, he's got a lot of versatility. He can play the cam, he can play centre midfield, he can play CDM, he can do all three of those things. So that really helps, given we have a pretty bad history of injuries in the midfield. So if, one of our more attacking-minded midfielders gets injured, he can play there. If, let's say Alan gets injured, he can play back there as well. He's hard-working as well, so I think he's going to be a banging addition for the Everton midfield, and the Everton team in general. I think we'll get a lot more opportunities at goal. And it's very clear that Frank Lampard has been, banging on about keeping possession and being aggressive and pressing. I think the more that Van De Beek has the ball at his feet, the more magic he's going to be able to create with it. So this is a brilliant signing. I was so stoked when this happened, and I can't wait to see what he'll do at the club. And the last deal that we did was Dele Alli on a perm, free transfer, but this is where it gets a little bit complicated. It goes up to 12 million euros after 20 appearances, and the potential add-ons could be up to 40 million euros depending on how he performs. This is a low-risk, high-reward deal. He's age 25. And people are saying he's washed. Well, he's got, you know, if he rescues his career, he's got 10 years of, 10, maybe 10, 8 years ahead of him, to turn things around. It's an effort thing. It's a work ethic thing. He's been nowhere to be found for like the last 2 years. The reason it's low risk is because he's come on a free. If he plays like garbage this season, you've literally spent nothing on him. If he plays well, you're benefiting from his good play. Obviously it'll be a little financial, like it'll dig into your expenses, but in saying that, you know, you're getting some good bang for your buck, and some good on-field product. And the Premier League saw what he could do a couple of years ago. Lampard was an admirer. He still is an admirer, obviously. He went after him like he did with Van De Beek, and they were able to get the deal done. So I think this is a great deal. Some people would just say, well, he's useless. And even if he is, we didn't spend a dime for him. We just move forward with life. It's as simple as that. But I think this is a wonderful signing and a very high IQ signing by Frank Lampard to identify this and basically pounce on the opportunity. So that's basically everything that happened this transfer window. I'm going to give this a B. And the reason for that is some people will say, well, I was being a bit too lenient, and others will say I'm being a bit too harsh. The reason it's like somewhere in the middle, that's basically how I adjudicated this grade, if that makes any sense. The reason is because, you know, we addressed the centre midfield need. The two fullbacks, I think in the long term they could be good. Short term, not so much. And the Lucas Digne signing departure was an absolute disaster on the board's behalf. And then the Ghazi loan was just, I don't understand why we did it. Could have been used, or that loan could have been used elsewhere in the Premier League for a Loftus-Cheek or a Barkley, which would have helped us in the midfield department as well. But overall, I'm not complaining, but I'm also still, you know, a bit depressed that we lost Dinier, you know, a week before Rafa left. And the reason Dinier left was because Rafa was still there. So basically it was all for nothing, but regardless, we were still able to make something out of it. And hopefully these players will impact in the long term, but it's very promising. And then you put that alongside Frank Lampard, Duncan Ferguson remains at the club, Tim Cahill's coming in, I believe Ashley Cole is coming in as well. And then you've got a couple assistant coaches that have also arrived through connections with Frank Lampard. And just like that, it looks much more promising going into the second half of the season. But I mean, you can only hope, but it couldn't really get much worse than where we were, you know, a week or two ago. So yeah, that's going to be it from me. I hope you enjoyed it. Share your thoughts in the comments about what you think, my analysis, whether that was fair to say, whether something wasn't fair to say. Let me know. But that's going to be it. Drop a like, subscribe, and yeah, you know, have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I will see you in the next video or stream, whenever that may be. Peace out.